7.
All right, we are ready. We are on the air. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White. Vanessa Moss. Attorney Vanessa Moss. And we've got Jim Nardone, former police chief in Trenton.
Good evening.
And I guess we want to talk about, go ahead, Vanessa, why don't you start off?
Well, we could start off. Good evening, Dwayla. First of all, for all those that are joining us, Detroit in Black and White this evening, Wednesday's edition, thank you so much for joining us. You don't like my music? Welcome back. I'm so happy to see that you're back.
I'm so happy to see he's with us. I was really worried about him there for a minute.
He just want to say what you want.
One day he and I are going to talk music. So.
Yeah. Jill Sheridan, hi Jill. Eric Brown, good evening. And guess what? My guy is here. You know, put a smile.
Why we got all this stuff on? Why we got all the people? I couldn't get on here. You know, we missed Teresa. Lengel didn't do right. I'm blaming Lengel.
I was just getting ready to call you.
You don't need to call me.
I was just getting ready to call you, and then Allan called me out. He said, Vanessa, you want to get started? Okay, Queen B, thank you so much. If you're watching Detroit in Black and White, we want you to like, subscribe, share. Tell your friends about Detroit in Black and White. We're on every Wednesday and Friday evening from 8:30 to 9:30, and every Saturday morning from 10 to 11 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, good. You got it. You got it going.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, we had talked earlier in the day, and you wanted to talk about Memorial Day before we really get into all the shit we were going to talk about. So go ahead.
We didn't address it last week, but Memorial Day was just this past Monday, honoring all those that gave their life for our country, and we need to think about them every day. People get confused between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. And to me, every day should be a Memorial Day and a Veterans Day. On Monday, I walked with a group from the Victory Gym, which is based military and police officers, but for an organization called Carry the Load. And I walked with a young Marine veteran. And we had a conversation, which I'm not going to talk about the conversation, but I could not have been more proud to walk. We walked about, I think, 4 miles. We walked from the Brownstown Police Department down to the Moose on Van Horn in Woodhaven, and they had a ceremony. But, people get upset because you get confused between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. And this is what I say. Every day should be Veterans Day, because without our veterans, we wouldn't have our cell phones, vacations, dinner out. We might be under surveillance by the government. There's so many things that our veterans gave us. And I was really proud to spend time with that 30-ish Marine veteran, and Adolph is a veteran of the Marine Corps, and everybody that's in the military. People suggest, well, he didn't fight in battle, he didn't do this. Well, I'll tell you this: we lose around 600 military people, men and women, every year to training incidents. Yeah. So people are dying out there all the time that are in the military. We lose way too many. Adolph?
Yeah, they die in boot camp. They die all over the place, and people think, oh, well, I listen, I was thinking that when Trump went to the West Point to give that speech, one, he wore that MAGA hat. He was disrespectful to those folks that was graduating, talking about trophy wives and all the BS. Somebody that was a draft dodger, because he was a draft dodger. He didn't want to serve. He called people that died suckers, all kind of other stuff. You're absolutely right, Jim. and people take Memorial Day as being happy Memorial Day. Ain't nothing happy about it. You know, when especially during Vietnam and Iraq and Afghanistan, you get a knock on the door. They used to just send a telegram, and a guy from Western Union come and give you a telegram say that your loved one's 18, 19 years old, sometimes 17, sometimes kids lie on their age.
Right.
We have had the youngest person that died in Vietnam, they found out was 15 years old. They went through boot camp and sent him straight over to Vietnam, and he was killed in action. Listen, less than a month after he got there. So yeah. Listen,
Thank you,
it's
Adolph.
nothing happy about it.
Thank you for your
Yeah.
sacrifice. Thank you, Edward Altman's a veteran. Thank you, Edward. We know you're out there, and every day should be Veterans Day.
Yeah, and let me chime in. I think those people that I know and those that I don't know, that I know that they have volunteered to serve so that we may live in this country and that we may live, free. And so I thank people like Adolph. I thank people, our viewers. A good friend of mine, Joe Irby, he works tirelessly for the veterans. As a matter of fact, during the race that's coming up this coming weekend, she'll be doing some work with veterans. But I think, like you said, we take it for granted. People risk their lives and they volunteer a lot. Most of them volunteer. There's some people who were drafted back in the day, but they volunteered to serve this country. And I think it's a shame the way that we treat people who serve this country, and they get back and they don't get the services that they need. I think it's
You know what they get? Thank you for your service. Thank you
right.
for your service. You can be at the airport. All of that or whatever, you can get in front of the line. But they don't get the help that they need, mental help. They don't get the jobs. You know, most of these folks that's homeless out on the streets in the country, they Vietnam vets. And oh man, the women that's been vets, they don't even get recognized at times because people don't think, was women in Vietnam? The women was in Korea, World War II. They have fought since we had a country. Yes. So you are absolutely right, Jim. We haven't taken care of our vets, and we need to pay more attention. It ain't Memorial Day ain't one of those holidays where you eating a rib sandwich and doing fireworks and
Right.
stuff. People
Right.
go out to the graveyard and pay homage. What do you think, Allan?
Well, I agree with you, but I think Memorial Day, Labor Day, a lot of the holidays, Veterans Day, whatever. I think it's lost when we start having like mall sales, all kinds of stuff, barbecues, and I think people forget even what Memorial Day is really about. They think of it as an extra day off. I mean, there are some clearly who go to the cemeteries and honor the people who fought in our country, but I think a lot of people don't even think of it, what the holiday is, really. It's just another day off. It's a day to barbecue. It's a day, whatever. So,
Well, I'm thinking of there was a senior citizen that lived in my neighborhood that was served during World War II in the Red Ball Express in one of those battalions, African American, and they was one of the first American soldiers to hit the concentration camps. And I heard what they saw when I was a kid. Bodies stacked up. The Nazis were still trying to kill people. In the last days, as the Americans and Russians and everybody else was moving in on them, they was trying to hide the crimes that they have committed. And one thing I have to say about Eisenhower, you know, he made sure that they documented all the stuff that they found, you know, and then start taking the people that lived in these areas and parade them right through there and say, this is what this is what y'all supported. Hopefully, we don't have to do that in our country, because we got a whole lot of people that's supporting all this crazy mayhem that's happening. Vanessa.
So I just want to acknowledge some of the people that are chiming in this conversation. You don't like my music, says World War One. I was 13 years. I was a 13. I saw 13-year-old boys enrolling. Edward A. To your point, Adolph says, remember all holidays. I mean, I'm sorry, to your point, Allan. All holidays are not happy days for everyone. Eric Brown said, let's also acknowledge that the very first Memorial Day took place on May 1st, 1965 in Charleston, South Carolina.
1865.
Yeah, I think you meant 18.
Queen Bee made a response talking about the numbers of people that are in the service. The numbers are growing. And You Don't Like My Music says, the best way to memorialize the war dead is to never do that again.
Well, easier said than done. You know, Allan, go ahead.
I was going to say, when you say a lot of people didn't know what was going on in Europe, there were actually mass executions sometimes of Jews where people in the villages were invited, and some came with cameras to watch the executions. I was going to also say that my mother was in two different concentration camps. One was actually Auschwitz, and the other was a munition factory. And at the end, when they were liberated by the American soldiers, she said it was the first time she ever saw a black person. She saw black soldiers there. There's
no question.
Black soldiers don't get enough credit for what they did in World War II in all different ways. But it was, my mother was appreciative of.
Well, you know, it's just like this. You talk about the genocide that happened in Germany and Europe during World War II. The genocide that took place in the Belgium Congo, where King Leopold said he owned a country, and they cut the hands and feet and the legs of African laborers for 100 fucking years. You know, people think of Belgium as one of those places. Oh, I wish I could go to Brussels and stuff. But Belgium was just as bad as Nazi Germany was, and how they treated their colonies in Africa and stuff. So yeah, and you know, it's just boom.
Queen Bee was. I'm sorry,
Go
ahead.
Was
talking about homeless veterans. I don't want to change the point, but you know, it's tragic that so many veterans are homeless out there in our country.
Yeah, but where they cutting these programs, and the people that's running the Navy, the Army, the Marines, etc. Most of them was 90-day wonders, as we call them, that was in the reserves, didn't see no, like J.D. Vance. That asshole never saw nothing. But he'll get up there and say, "Oh yeah, I'm a vet and I served my country and stuff." I had a veteran ask those who served, that went to Vietnam, that went to Afghanistan, went 3 or 4 tours, or went to Iraq. They don't go bragging about what they did. They don't even want to talk about the shit. A lot of them got post-traumatic syndrome. Some of them need help. They don't get it. But we got these folks that come out there and they say, "Oh, yeah, he he was on stateside. He happened to be in the Marines. Yeah, he was in the Marines. We had people that was here in the country. We had people that went overseas. But hey, and I tell people, they say, didn't you see combat? Hell no. I had a good time when I was there. You know, I was stationed at an Army base. I was hanging out.
Which
You
base?
know, I was writing articles,
What
taking
base?
pictures.
What base were you at?
I was at Fort Benjamin Harrison, named after a former president.
Where is it?
In Indianapolis, Indiana. They closed it down. It was the Army Finance School. I had a great time, you know. And then when they sent me back to a Marine base, it was a nightmare. Damn, I got to be disciplined. With the Army, I didn't have to do all that shit, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
I
commercial.
be remiss without acknowledging G Money Hollywood. Says Memorial Day is not just about our veterans, but it's for anyone who has sacrificed their life for someone else. This includes the neighbor, father, or firefighter who lost their life to save another.
Okay, go ahead. Let's take a break, Alice.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Okay, we're back. So yeah, Jim, you had the last word on Memorial Day.
I just want to say there's a lot of people out there that care about our veterans, and we just aren't doing what we all need to do, and more needs to be done, and hopefully in the future. And as I said earlier, every day should be Veterans Day, not November 11th. Every single day should be Veterans Day, because we wouldn't have the freedom that we have without our veterans.
Okay, I just want to talk about our governor. She went to D.C. and her and Duggan, to a point, talked about how people was criticizing her for cozying up to Donald Trump, and he praised her as one of the best and all this other shit. And now he said today, those patriots that was put in jail for plotting to kidnap her, I think I'm gonna let them out. They got a raw deal. Vanessa.
So I heard that he said that he didn't know that he did. He felt like they made some stupid remarks, made some stupid statements, and basically, therefore, and I'm paraphrasing, they were prosecuted, and that he hadn't made up his mind, but he is considered.
He has. He has. He's letting out people that stole millions of dollars. No, he's not commuting their sentences. He is pardoning these folks that the reality family, they were thieves. They stole millions of fucking dollars, fake loans, all this other stuff. A sheriff in Virginia was taking bribes. You can go. The bottom line is, in this country, he's sending a message. If you want to commit a crime, do it at the federal level, because I'll take care of you.
Well,
Allan.
We have something that's called the United States Constitution that gives the president the plenary power to do that. And so we don't have any oversight to say, hey,
yes, we do,
or commute this person.
We can kick him out of office.
That we can do, but right now there's nothing we can do.
Oh, well, because they don't want to do it. And then they're going to have the Democrats come in power and start doing the shit, but they won't. These folks will go crazy. Allan.
Look, they had a pardon attorney. They have one who had pardon attorney in the Justice Department who they fired because Trump didn't like the idea that you would actually try to be fair and balanced and deliver justice. Now they've got Ed Martin, the former U.S. Attorney of D.C., who couldn't get confirmed because even Republicans opposed him. So he's giving Ed Martin first represented, which is nothing wrong if you're a lawyer. He represented 3 of the January 6 people. Then he went over to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and I believe he not only helped dismiss hundreds and hundreds of cases, including people who attacked police, but also people who were his clients, which is a totally unethical thing. I think what we're seeing is that it's, we were talking about it before the show started, that Paul Waszak, who's a nursing home executive, who for income tax evasion or something like $4 million or something, his mother went to a Mar-a-Lago dinner for $1 million. And then he got pardoned. What we're seeing is basically, it's payola. I mean, we're seeing the most corrupt thing. It's like, with the 2 guys who've been convicted, I mean, the argument is at some point, look, they were willing participants, but it was an FBI sting. The FBI got involved in it. They had undercover informants. They had undercover agents involved. So the argument is always, look, stings have been upheld, decade after decade as being constitutional. These guys said stupid shit, but then they were involved in a plot to kidnap and eventually kill Gretchen Whitmer. They were convicted by a jury. They lost their appeal in the Court of Appeal, U.S. Court of Appeals, and now they're looking at him because why? Because Ed Martin, the guy, is such a pro January 6 guy. He thinks all the January 6 people, it was a beautiful day. He was at the Capitol that day as a demonstrator outside and texting on tweeting or whatever, saying what a glorious day it was. This is what's happened to, there's no integrity left. It's just all been shot to hell.
Well, to the victors goes the spoils, Jim.
Well, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to give you a police perspective, because Donald Trump says that he supports, our police officers. Right. But I'm going to read a quick statement. Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger, who I'm not familiar with, but I just read a little bit about him today. He's retiring. Says Trump's pardon of January 6 rioters was probably one of the worst days in this job. And what I think he means is his police career. And he led 3 police agencies, and I couldn't agree with him more. I couldn't agree with the chief more. And he's 70 years old, and congratulations on his retirement. He came after January 6th and changed a lot of things, including protecting Congress people in their home districts. So he's been really busy, and it sounds like he did a great job over there. He
was the head of the Fairfax County.
Right.
And he came over there, and they've had a lot of really good police chiefs over. I've known some of them over at the Capitol Police, and he's one who had a lot of integrity. And it's got to be heartbreaking to see that, where it's so disrespectful what's going on. So
yeah, well, it's so disrespectful, but this is what we gotta live with it. Okay, let's move on. I was reading the results of a poll in Metro Times, where it says, that the mayor, although he getting support from Republicans and Democrats, that he has a problem. That John James or Jocelyn Benson is going to beat him.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, your take on that, Allan?
I wrote about that poll. I mean, they did a hypothetical 3-way: John James, Jocelyn Benson, and Duggan. Jocelyn Benson at 34.5%. John James had 34%. Duggan, I think, had 23% or something like that, or 21, one of those two. But you know what? It's still early. You can't. I don't know if we can rule it out. I mean, look, the main party should have a better shot at it, but I don't rule Duggan out. And it's we got an election in November of 2026. That's a long way off. Anything can happen between.
I rule him out. You know what? I rule him out. I rule him out. And listen, he's a smart guy. He political wise, but I see the canary in the mine singing when he decided to walk away from being a Democrat to being an independent. I would have preferred if he'd have said, I'm switching parties and I'm gonna be a Republican. He would have had a better shot. And I don't think that he would have taken that much blowback, because a lot of folks would say, oh yeah, I always thought he was a Republican anyway. I really truly think that if John James, I think John James might be, this is not saying a lot, the strongest Republican candidate, because I don't see Tudor Dixon doing anything, but you never know what these folks are thinking.
I have to disagree with you about if he went over the Republican side. I mean, generally, if this weren't the Trump party, that would be one thing, but it is the Trump party. And so I don't see a lot of Democrats defecting Republican party.
Well, you go down to Florida and you see about 5 or 6 of them left the Democratic Party. And, Republicans would take whatever. They love, they'll take the devil himself if they thought that he was going to give them a vote. Vanessa.
So I have a question to the panel, but my opinion is I kind of have like a mixed opinion. One, I think it is, who took the poll, who paid for the poll, how many people did they poll, that kind of thing.
Poll is a poll.
Polls, polls don't vote. But my question to you guys is this. Why is it, Adolph, that you think, and I don't know if you, Allan, and you, Jim, feel the same way. Why is it that you think that he would not prevail as an independent?
I think
what's going on in the country, in particular, what has happened here?
Because Detroit and Michigan is not one of those states where an independent party has picked up steam. I could look around the country: Maine, Vermont, Minnesota, California, down south, Louisiana, a lot of places where people voted as independents, and they have voted third parties. They have been protested. Alabama, Joe Lieberman. And where is it? Connecticut? Was he in Connecticut? Allan?
Yes, Joe Lieberman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you look at Alaska, where the senator there got beat in the Republican primary. She ran as a write-in and won. And I'm just saying, I think he's grasping at straws because he is the master of taking polls. He done took a poll here, take a poll there, and he knows the game. And as soon as he said, I'm running as an independent, he's pissed at the Democratic Party. Democrats and looked at him, and he looked at that and said, I ain't gonna win as a Democrat, so he got the only option is to march on Rome. He's like Spartacus. Spartacus found himself, he could have got out of Italy in the beginning, but they was beating up on folks and winning, and they decided we're going to stay here a little bit. And then they found themselves surrounded, and the only thing that they could do was march on Rome, and that's a no-no.
I just want to answer, Vanessa, when you asked The poll was commissioned by the Detroit Regional Chamber.
Okay.
It was done by Glenn Gariff, who does a lot of the Free Press polls as well. And
Is
so,
that a right wing guy?
no, he's not a right wing. He does a lot of stuff for the Free Press. It was done because of the Mackinac. They took a lot of polls on a lot of different things. They wanted to have some fodder for people to talk about.
Well, one of our viewers says, and I'm putting this out to you, Jim, Adolph, Allan. He says that he said Mike will win Detroit hands down for the governor's seat, and that says a lot.
No.
There are weak candidates in the race, and he has a very good chance of winning the seat based on the D. Now,
I disagree.
This the candidates that are out there, that there are weak candidates. Do you think that there are weak candidates?
No, Johnson Biss is not a weak candidate. John James is not a weak candidate. We might not like them. I don't like John James.
About Garland Gilchrist.
Garland Gilchrist, who I think is just a intelligent young man. Yeah, he's a weak candidate because he still believes in opening doors and pulling chairs out and letting the Gretchen sit down, and he's a gentleman. He should have kicked that bitch in the ass.
Oh, Lord,
but what she did to him, used him, then abused him, and he's still saying the right things. That's why I couldn't be a politician, because I wouldn't say the shit that he would say. Just like the other day up in Mackinac, there's an open seat, a Senate seat in Michigan, and she won't call a special election. I don't know why she won't call a special election, because it's one of those seats that can go either way, and the Democrats got one Senate advantage. Yeah, why don't you just say, that's up to the governor. We trying to do the right thing, etc. But no, Garland says, oh, I'm just waiting on the governor to call us a special election and spend 5 months where and he just listen, bitch, call a final call a special election. Lord. Call it.
So getting back to the candidates. So you're saying Benson and James are strong candidates, and the rest of the candidates are weak candidates?
No, all I'm saying is they got a little. They got money. They running. They not walking. They running. That's all I'm saying. Okay. And Gilchrist is walking because he's watching what he say and what he do. The guy when they got elected a second term, he should have went rogue on her and build up his base. I like him. I gave a fundraiser for him here in Detroit. There's no question. I say, if you run for governor, I'm there with you. Call me. Right. But I'm sure he has his handlers telling him, you better not fuck with him.
Right.
You better not do this. I listen. I don't take it personal.
Right.
But this is what, politicians are some strange folks. And
let me ask you, Adolph, you knowing the inner workings of a lot of political campaigns, could Gilchrist have not said when they ran for re-election, said to Whitmer, look, I'll be your partner again in this, but I wanted your assurances that you're going to back me when I run for governor. Could he?
Yeah, well, yes. Listen, I lived in Colorado in the 70s, and Dick Lamb, he was a moderate Democrat. If he was in Michigan, he probably would have been a liberal Republican. Anyway, he picked a former newspaper reporter who turned politician, and an African American named George Brown as his running mate. Okay, etc. they had a disagreement on, and there was a case where an African American maintenance man had been accused of murdering this millionaire son and got life in prison, etc. And people were trying to get him out. Now, this is the 1970s. Lamb went out of town, went to Europe. Soon as he left, George Brown said, I'm giving the brother a pardon. Lamb came back so fast. It came back and they clashed. They fired him from the ticket. Fast forward 20 years later, I'm in Fishbones. I look at this guy sitting there. I guess it was his wife. I said, that's George Brown. I go over there, and that was him, and talked to him. And he said the best thing ever happened to him. He said he would never regret it. He said he would have regretted that he didn't do anything when he had the chance. And he said it cost him, but he became he became a stockbroker and stuff, made a lot of money. But the bottom line is, if you got to look out for your future, because these politicians got no loyalty to some of these folks. Gretchen had no loyalty to Garland Gilchrist when she said he can't win. When the last time a lieutenant governor won a race in Michigan? Well, it was Milliken, and it took George Romney resignation to go to D.C. for him to become governor, and then he got reelected a couple times. But a true blue person would have said, listen, I'm supportive. It's going to be a tough battle. The odds are always against lieutenant governors getting elected. But no, she threw him under the fucking bus. And there he is standing up there grinning with this woman. I would have slapped the shit out of her. I guess that's why I wouldn't be there.
Adolph, you got a couple questions.
Right.
Okay, take a break. But you got a couple questions, Adolph, and then I want to talk to you. You don't like my music for just a second later. Go ahead.
Let's do a commercial. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Who wins if the election were held today, I guess is the question. And G Money Hollywood was talking about Benson's baggage. So can you address both of those?
What is Benson's baggage?
Or controversy, I guess. Maybe her husband. I don't know. That's her biggest.
Well, always, Granholm's husband was a real asshole. But she kept getting reelected, attorney general, and the governor. If the election was held today, no, you know what? Duggan is popular. Don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is Detroiters don't vote independently. They don't vote independently. They look at that D. The big D.
I disagree with that on this one. I think.
You might. The new breed of folks that's coming in might vote independently, but these senior citizens that's entrenched. I know these folks.
Right.
I become one of them, and some of them, most of them are not. They not straying away from the Democratic Party and voting in their fucking pendant. Allan, go ahead.
The poll that was taken, this poll by the chamber that was released. One of the things it showed is that Duggan had a recognition in Metro Detroit, sort of Southeast Michigan, whatever, about in the 80s. I think in Metro Detroit in the 80s. In the statewide, you only had name recognition about 26%.
Don't mean nothing, Allen.
Well, maybe not, but
It don't mean nothing. Gil Hill had 89% name recognition when he was trying to get back on the city council. Joanne Watson had 35%. But it's your message that you lay out there on the table, and if you do it right, you could win these races. I'm not listen. I'm not Houdini. I'm not a genie that's looking at a crystal ball and saying, Duggan can't win, ain't gonna win. All I'm saying, this is my opinion. I'm looking at what the makeup that the majority of the folks here in Detroit, and I'm only talking about Detroit, senior citizens that go out to vote religiously is not gonna vote independently. Now, I can wake up that day, next day on a Wednesday, and damn, Duggan got 90% of the fucking vote. Okay. Shit.
It seemed like that was a decent. It seemed like that was a pretty good poll. The last one, I thought. The other one, I don't know. It seemed like it made sense to me.
About this last poll, Jim?
Yes.
Saying that
if it were Gilchrist, he would. I just think it made sense.
Okay.
Because Gilchrist was going to be, in that 25 to 30 range, but it's not going to be Gilchrist. It's going to be, we know it's going to be. It's be Jocelyn Benson,
but Gilchrist can make a difference in this race if Benson get the nomination as Democrats, and Duggan likes to play the game. One, who do he get as his running mate?
Right.
Two, if he can convince Gilchrist to stand up there with him and saying, I wouldn't treat you like shit, like the Democrats have treated you like shit, then the race is on. But that's if. Nobody's gonna fall. I don't think any black person gonna fall for the okie doke with Jocelyn Benson. It's been done already. Brittman played that hand.
John James is the best thing to happen to those two candidates. I'll say that.
if he get the nomination, because listen, Trump and them, they really pissed because they don't want him to leave that seat.
Right, they did not want him to leave that seat.
No.
Yeah.
But he's way ahead in the poll of the Republicans.
He sure is. He sure is. If we got any questions, we need to read.
I lost money too.
I just wanted to address. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Megan Slattery says we need a break. Laugh out loud. Hey, TaylorMade. True Sensation says they also vote by name recognition, giving Duggan an edge. G Money says Gilchrist doesn't have a great chance at all. He's lived in the shadow of our current governor for too long. He's a businessman, not a politician. Detroit will vote for.
What business did he do?
What?
Tell me. What business that has he? Saying that he's a businessman. I just want to know. Go ahead. Continue.
Kay said at Allan. Hey, Kay. David Porter says Benson has violated campaign finance laws according to the same people. Kay said we are knowledgeable and multicultural, so you don't know. Adolph, you are belittling the intelligence of Detroiters. Things have changed.
I'm not. I'm not, because I'm putting relatives and friends in there. I'm not belittling anybody. All I'm looking at is a history of what's happening in those states that do support independent folks, independent Republicans, etc. The first time I ever voted for president, I voted for John Anderson, a Republican out of Illinois, as an independent because I didn't like McGovern or Nixon.
Huh.
So yeah, but I'm talking about people that's entrenched and going into that voting booth and saying, I'm not going to waste my vote for Duggan because they looking at other folks down the line. People going to spoil a lot of fucking ballots. And
Right.
I'm just going to tell you. Hey, so no, I'm not belittling anybody. I'm not saying people are stupid or crazy. All I'm saying is it's a fact.
Right.
Now, we can come on here or whatever. Y'all can find me somewhere and drag me out and say, motherfucker, he was wrong. Oh, I'll bet, you know, but it's like shooting craps.
So we have Queen B who says there is zero excitement about the race. She says that it appears, and she's talking about Garland Gilchrist, she says that he should drop out, and that it appears that he barely has any support.
Yeah.
Is asking you a question, Adolph. He's asking, is that the case that Sam Riddle worked on? The case you were talking about, the guy you ran into at Fishbones. He wants to know that. So.
No, Sam Riddle didn't. Well, Sam Riddle worked on the Secretary of State, Victoria Buckley, a black woman. She died under mysterious circumstances.
Oh, I remember that story.
Yeah, she was under indictment.
Yeah,
that's who he worked for, and that was years after George Brown. You know, George Brown was first a newspaper person that worked for the Denver Post. Then he ran for state senate. He's a smart guy, but he wasn't a punk. And he did what he had to do, and it cost him. Got fired from the ticket. Allan.
I have a question for the panel. What do you make of Jocelyn Benson when she made her announcement that she was running? She did it. She violated campaign finance laws by announcing it in a state building. She's a lawyer. She's the Secretary of State. What do you make of that, doing something so blatant?
So she's a lawyer. She's a Secretary of State. I bet you she was aware of the loophole because they can't do anything about it, right? And most of all, she's a politician. That's my opinion.
And she's arrogant. And she's arrogant. They all do it.
Allan. Sheriffs do it. Senators do it. They use government buildings. They all do it. She
could have done it anywhere, though. She could have done it anywhere. And, you know, I mean, there's a million places to do that. And to do that in a government building, it just because you can get away with it. That concerns me.
Can I take 1 minute to address, you know, like my music, our old friend from
Go ahead.
You know, he talked about bigotry and policing, and I just want to address. First, he asked why I'm not a police officer. I retired almost after 28 years, but he claims there's, well, I'm not saying he doesn't. There is bigotry in policing, all right? He used bigotry. I'm going to use bias. We all have bias. Every one of us has bias, but I don't care if you're a U.S. Senator, the President of the United States. You know, you shouldn't be doing the job, including policing or firefighting or whatever, unless you can overcome your bias. It wasn't, you know, in our lifetime, cops in the South were killing civil rights workers, right? We lived through that. We all lived. We were all alive when that happened. We're better now, and we are better. We're still.
But you didn't have to go south for that to happen. They was here too.
Anyway, I just wanted to address that because he asked, and I'm happily retired. They gave me a fire department to go along with the police department. And those guys worked me over good, so I had to. Now it's time to retire.
Well, I want to give a shout out to Kenneth Powell. I did acknowledge him. He is a regular viewer of Detroit Black and White. He said like, share, and he likes the enlightenment. So shout out to Kenneth Powell. Thank you so much for watching Detroit Black and White and participating.
And thanks for the kind words too from, you know, like my music. He's too nice to me. He doesn't know me that well.
So yeah,
Allan?
so
What?
Oh, I thought you had your hand up.
No, no, no. I was.
get back to
I'm
Jocelyn
sorry.
Benson. You asked the question, Alan. Like I said, she's a lawyer, like you said. She's a Secretary of State. But listen, she knew exactly what she was doing, and I guarantee you, she knew there was a loophole, and that there's really nothing that can be done about it. So it was, as far as I'm concerned, it was an article in the newspaper. Listen,
She's an arrogant bee. That's what she is.
you said what now, Adolph?
She's an arrogant bee.
Oh Lord, have mercy.
Yeah, she's arrogant. They do this shit. And you're right, Alan. You look and say, "Damn, it's blatant." It's just like what's happening in D.C. What's some of these folks do. It used to be, they had rules and regulations. There was honor among thieves and shit. There's nothing. So everybody went rogue except Garland Gilchrist. He read his book. I can't go rogue. I can't do this. Oh my God. I'm running. Run, Garland, run. But
talking about running, let me make this announcement. Listen, we will have a candidates forum that will include the mayoral and city council hopefuls on Saturday, July 19th at the Northwest campus of WCCD in conjunction with the 100 Black Men of Greater Detroit and the Detroit Black and White podcast team. So,
we see how many people show up.
People will show up, and there will be. I'm sure you'll be able to make sure that people behave.
I had to go out on the lodge. I came back on the lodge this morning. I see they got billboard. This is a billboard fucking race. This is the most ridiculous shit. Right? Everybody had a billboard, and I'm gonna say this: billboards don't vote. It don't matter. The only good billboard, if Coke put up a billboard and say Coca-Cola, you know what you're talking about. Ford, it's a brand. But damn, you could if you're gonna spend $3,000-$4,000 a month for a billboard, you could be on cable all day, all night, and do that 3 months or 2 months, and get your message across, or pay for folks to go out in the community. Yes, I had somebody tell me they wanted some billboard. Joanne Watson, the late Joanne Watson, great Joanne Watson, had somebody told her she had $50,000 to spend on billboards. I said, Joanne, spend it if you just like to see your face around the city. I said, don't waste your money. Let's go on the air. Let's go to Channel 2 and Channel 4 because we can afford that, and kick Hill ass that way. I said, but if you want to be able to have a billboard here on the east side, west side, whatever, and then you drive around all day looking at yourself, by all means, go and do it. And she said, okay, I'm not going to do that. And that's what you got to do, because billboards don't fucking vote. You can see, you drive by there and you gone just like that. You see their face. Ty Perkins' face, Mary Sheffield face, Fred Duhar face. Right. Everybody got a face, but you can't even read the shit. The billboard is a scam. It's a fucking scam. Yes, Allan.
A lot of money. I think we have people saying that they will be at the forum. Sheila B says she'll be at the forum. Someone says they hope that it would be more organized than that other forum.
What, the shit show?
Wait a minute. I said I said ours will be much more organized and people will behave. Somebody says that they hope that
Yes.
you don't scare that you, Adolph, don't scare the people to death.
I hope he does. I hope he does. If they're
Go
afraid of
ahead.
Adolf,
Let's
leave
put
him
them
alone.
away.
I just want to let me say something, please. I want to address the billboard issue. Is that like I've said it before. We had a billboard once for Deadline Detroit, paid $3,500. It was at I-75 in Warren. It was a digital billboard, which means it rotates with other ads. It shows up every 8 seconds. If you have one billboard, it's a total waste of money. If you have a shitload of money where you can get 20 billboards all around the city, you get it plastered on the buses and everything, then it starts to have some traction. But one billboard, people think, oh, we're going to spend $3, to have a static billboard, I think it's probably about $5,000. It's just, if you have, $100,000 just to spend on billboard.
You should have gave me that 3,500, Allan. I would have went to the casino.
I wish
I
I
would have
would
played
have.
some blackjack.
I wish I would have.
Vanessa.
Yes. So I'm reading these comments. Ken Lock had a large crowd at his campaign headquarters opening Saturday morning.
Okay, he had his people. He had his people from the church and stuff.
Right.
Instead of they giving tithes to Triumph, they giving tithes to the campaign. So it makes sense.
Yeah. Digital billboards are a waste of money, according to Queen Bee. She said they flip too fast. Who else said something? I do want to acknowledge one of our co-hosts, Eric. Eric has his show that comes on Monday night. I did tune in for a hot second, and even though he has some challenges initially getting on, he had quite a few people watching his show on Monday night. So, Detroit Black and White, we're building a brand. We want you guys to continue to support Detroit in Black and White. Watch Reality Strikes on Monday evenings. Also catch us, Detroit in Black and White, on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Wednesday and Friday, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. and Saturday mornings from 10 to 11. And we want you guys to join us on July the 19th at the Candidates Forum. We will be hosting this along with
I won't be there. I don't want to scare anybody.
you will be there.
Anybody? Well, Jim, your final thought.
I just want to say thanks to everybody that's out there watching. Thanks for all the participation. This is your show. This isn't our show, and thank you for being here.
Okay, Allan Lengel.
I just want to say I wrote a story today about the big, beautiful bill that includes a provision that weakens the federal judge's ability to hold people in contempt if they don't listen to their orders. People don't know half the stuff that's in the bill, including some of the Congress members who claim, oh, I didn't know that was in there. But people have to pay attention. And
I don't think it's going to pass the Senate.
It won't.
I don't even know what to believe, to be honest with you. They say half of them don't know what's in it. And then, I heard an interview today where the congressman, he actually had a town hall and the people went crazy on him. But
they should have tarred and feathered his ass.
He was from Omaha. They went crazy on him. And guess what? He said, yeah, I supported it. And guess what? It's going to be good for the area that I represent. Basically, yeah, the hospitals are saying this and that, but we're going to be good. So he knows what's in the bill.
Yeah, he knows in the bill.
The big, beautiful bill. He knows what's in the big, beautiful bill. So,
your final thought, Vanessa.
Jill Sheridan, thanks. And she says, thanks, Allan, she says, keep raising awareness. Sam, good evening. Thank you for watching. Listen, we thank each and every one of you guys for watching Detroit in Black and White. Today, I'm a little bit subdued. I'll be back on the Friday. I got some bad news today. And so I'll be okay by Friday, hopefully. But you guys have a wonderful evening. We see you again on Friday at 8:30 p.m. Love all of you.
Okay, and I want to thank the person that not here, Teresa. You know, she the mother of the bride. I like that. You know, she's preparing for that big day. Is that Saturday, Jim?
I believe it's Saturday.
Yeah, and lovely downtown Marshall, Michigan. I can't wait to go to Marshall. Win Schulish. You
Yeah,
know,
that's a great
he,
place.
you know that cheese fondue and stuff.
Prime
But
rib.
anyway,
Big
we'll
piece of
be
prime
back.
rib.
We'll be back. What's on Friday? As we will talk about the issues of the day. You know, and no, I still think that the independent movement in Michigan has a long way to go. Uh, it's on the ground, but it's moving kind of slow with Uncle Joe moving kind of slow at the junction. Remember Petticoat Junction?
Yeah, Petticoat Junction.
Yeah,
Yes, it was in
stupid
black
ass,
and white, right?
stupid ass show. We'll see you. Thank you, Detroit.